Hello, I'm Christine Mundwa, and welcome to our special coverage here on DW on the conflicts in the Middle East. That conflict between the US, Israel and Iran is widening into Lebanon. The Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah launched missiles and drones toward Israel. That was after the killing of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei. Now, in response, Israel's now launched heavy airstrikes on southern Lebanon, killing dozens and wounding over 100 people. Now, over in Washington, the US President Donald Trump has called on the Iranian people to seize the moment and retake their country. It was in his first address since the killing of Khamenei that Trump told Iranians to, quote, "America is with you." He also warned Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps to surrender or face, quote, certain death. Now, with me in studio is DW's Middle East analyst, Shani Rozanes. Shani, let's just perhaps begin with just putting it all into perspective now. We're day 3 into this conflict. Give us a sense of what the status quo is on the ground.
Well, if anybody expected Iranians to go, off and try to retreat, this is not what they're doing. On the contrary, we see a very aggressive Iranian retaliation on the offense, not just against Israel, which has been, just a constant wave of more and more attacks, basically trying to get Israelis' lives disrupted as much as possible, showing their defiance. Also, at the same time, a lot of operations when it comes to the Gulf and the whole region, actually, from Iraq down to the Gulf. We're seeing the Iranians trying to tackle and hit American targets and American bases. And at the same time, we're also seeing the Iranian proxies, the leading one, Hezbollah, actively joining the fight against Israel with drones overnight. And we will see where this take us. So there's a lot of fear and anxiety in Lebanon because this will affect not just the Shiite parts, not just Hezbollah. It's going to have very dire consequences for the whole country.
Right. So, Shani, you're going to stick around because we'll be unpacking these developments and giving them a sort of the wider perspective of what all of this means, these developments that are happening on the ground in the Middle East. But for the meantime, Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's vowed to intensify airstrikes, Shani, on Tehran in the coming days, saying that the military has now mobilized its full strength. There was that call for the reserves. Now, this comes after Iran targeted Israel with a barrage of rockets and missiles. Now, medical staff say 9 people were killed and more than 20 wounded when a synagogue was hit. That was in the town of Beit Shemesh.
Correct.
That would be in the west of Jerusalem. That then brings the number of dead in Israel now to 11. Now, Israel's military chief also confirmed launching a, quote, offensive campaign against Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. This comes after Israel struck Hezbollah targets in the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Now, there are reports that a senior Hezbollah figure has been killed. Those strikes come after Hezbollah fired rockets at Israel in response to Ayatollah Khamenei's death, which was confirmed at the weekend. And so perhaps it's a good time to talk to our correspondent in Jerusalem, Tania Krämer. It's good to see you, Tania. Just give us a sense of what the latest is now in Jerusalem this morning on the 3rd day of this war.
Yeah, also this morning people here woke up to air raid sirens. They had to go to shelters again, although it had been a relatively calm night, except for the launching of rockets and drones from Lebanon and then Israel attacking ever since. But that also means, what Shani just said, is basically people have to be on alert all the time because you never quite know when those alerts are coming in.
Right. And with the ongoing escalation now on the northern front, that is with Lebanon, is there any real hope for a ceasefire or has that possibility now just faded?
No, I think we're in a totally different phase right now. I mean, the IDF, the Israeli military, just issued warnings this morning to Lebanese citizens in 53 villages to evacuate. And we also saw what you already mentioned is, the attacks in southern Beirut and in other areas during the night in retaliation for this rocket fire. Now, Israel had been preparing for this. In the past days and weeks, they have been carrying out airstrikes in southern Lebanon, but also other areas to take out, as they say, missile and rocket sites and military sites. And we also heard from the Chief of Staff, Zamir, that this is not just defensive action, this is also offensive action, obviously. And he called on the citizens here, to be prepared. He also said to the citizens in northern Israel that this time we will not evacuate you, we will protect you, and that, everybody should be prepared, as he said, for prolonged days of combat.
Right. Thanks so much for that wrap. That's our Tania Krämer in Jerusalem. And from there, we'll go now to Beirut, where Stella Mena is joining us. Stella, what more can you tell us from Beirut, where you are?
So people in Beirut woke up around 2:40 in the morning due to the heavy bombardment of the southern suburbs of Beirut. They were extremely loud and windows were shaking due to these explosions. People here don't have any pre-warning system, nor do they have shelters or bunkers where they can hide. So most people woke up by this sound and then they were fleeing their homes, trying to find safer areas to hide. According to the Lebanese Health Ministry, at least 31 people died in last night's airstrikes, and more than 149 people are injured. And as we are speaking, the bombardment is continuing in South Lebanon, because the Israeli army is also carrying out strikes there in the south of Lebanon, as well as in the Bekaa. Tania said it earlier, the Israeli army sent out forced evacuation warnings to more than 53 towns and villages in Lebanon. And these villages are being bombed right now as we speak. So we're expecting more and more casualties to be reported throughout the day.
Right, Stella, and as you're speaking, we could see pictures of some of those strikes that took place overnight. But just maybe one more to you while I still have you. Has there been any reaction to the strikes from Lebanon's government so far?
Yes, indeed. Lebanon's government has reacted. President Aoun has condemned these strikes, as well as Prime Minister Salam. He called these rocket attacks that Hezbollah launched irresponsible. Earlier on, he said that no matter who performed these rocket attacks, they are irresponsible. That was before it was clear that Hezbollah claimed these attacks. There's also right now an emergency meeting by the Lebanese government taking place. So the officials are trying to take into control what they have. The Ministry of Justice also said that they will try to send out the arrest to the people who are standing behind these rocket attacks. This is really the attempt of the newly elected or new Lebanese government to try and to perform their state power.
All right, thanks so much for that, Stella Mena in Beirut. And why don't we go over to Dubai now, where our Emily Gordine, who's usually reporting inside of Israel, is standing by. But you're one of the people who are stranded in Dubai, Emily. But why don't we just start with the fact that we're getting more reports, or reports of more explosions happening in Dubai. Tell us more.
That's right. All morning, we've basically been hearing explosions over the skies of Dubai. That's caused quite a lot of nervousness among the people that we were in the breakfast hall this morning in the hotel that we're staying. This is part of a series of attacks that Iran has launched against the United Arab Emirates. We understand from the Ministry of Defense that Iran has launched over 160 ballistic missiles at the country and more than 500 drones. The majority of these have been intercepted. We understand there's an interception rate of about 93%, but of course there's a huge question of how long can the United Arab Emirates keep parrying these attacks as they continue. It seems that they keep varying between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, where we've also seen attacks last night, and there's a rising question of, if the UAE gets involved, what would that look like? You have US military bases in the country. Could the UAE decide to allow the Americans to use them to strike Iran directly? In the past, that was a hard no. Now the calculations might have changed.
All right, let's leave it there, Emily, and we can now come back here to the studio where I'm still with DW's Shani Rozanes. So we've heard it there from our correspondents on the ground in Jerusalem, in Beirut, and just now we were hearing from Emily, who is in Dubai. So multiple fronts and flare-ups across the region, essentially. What does this all mean, and where is this all going in terms of the short, perhaps medium, and then the long-term objectives of the key players?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, Trump was very proud yesterday, saying this is going much better than he expected, that they're ahead of schedule. We know that the Israelis and the Americans have had a plan for a very dense first 72 hours. We're still in that time frame to get most of the goals that they had achieved, that they had set to themselves achieved. We need to also look at the strategy in general that they had, sketched out. They started, we've seen also on the first day, mostly attacks on launchers and missile stockpiles that would be in the outskirts, mostly in the west of Iran, because that's actually shortens the distance, the range between Iran and Israel. So that was the first attempt, and that was, the success with that, with destroying many of the launchers and stockpiles of missiles for Iran, it helps them secure their next steps and prevents, weakens Iran's ability to defend itself from further attacks. And this is when we've seen yesterday they shift their focus more into other sets of targets, not just military ones, but also those connected to the regime, to the Interior Ministry, to the besieged, to the Revolutionary Guard, sort of weakening the structure of the regime and the oppression of the regime. And the hopes is, as Trump has said right from the start, Netanyahu followed him, they hope that to create the conditions that will allow the Iranian people to, at the end of these very intense days of exchange of fire, have a better condition of taking their fate in their own hands and moving on. And we will be seeing more of that. But we are seeing also a very defiant Iranian retaliation, very strong. And they're trying very much to utilize all of the region. Some of the countries in the Gulf, some of them have been somewhat friendly or closer to them, that are now trying to be used as a vehicle to put pressure on the Americans. And we'll see where this is taking. We're still a long road ahead of us.
Thanks for that, Shani. That is all for now. Remember, you can find more on our website, that's dw.com. We will continue to give you updates on those developments in the Middle East and what they all mean. Thanks very much. It's been good having your company. Bye-bye.